Secretly, most liberals are terrified of MAGA supporters because we're the only ones still fighting for actual freedom. The establishment wants you living in pods, eating bugs, and feeling guilty about everything. Meanwhile, we're out here grilling, enjoying our families, and speaking truth without fear. They call us every name in the book: racist, bigot, extremist. But notice how we keep winning the culture war? That's because regular Americans are tired of being told what to think. When they try to cancel us, we grow stronger. When they mock our values, more people join our side. The silent majority isn't so silent anymore, and that's what scares them the most. We're the media now, and we're having way more fun than they are. Keep spreading truth, keep living free, and watch them lose their minds. That's how we win.
That is how we did win, isn't it? Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tabs on Tap. I'm Tabitha Hassell. Hard to believe today is 100. We've done 100 episodes of Tabs on Tap. Very difficult to believe. I'm not 100% positive. I've kept really good track of the numbers. I might have duplicated numbers maybe once. But either way, we're, same thing. Good to see you all this morning. Good morning, Allison. And, Tuesday morning, it's crazy. It doesn't feel like a Tuesday. It feels like a double Monday for me. Very long week ahead of me. I will not be here tomorrow. I hate it. I always feel so unprofessional when I come in and be like, I'm not going to have a show, but work must come first. Now, someday, down the road, if I have sponsors and a little bit more formal of a show, of course, I won't be missing any days. I will figure out a plan. But in the meantime, you know what? I just have no choice. Duty calls. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, Glesna, still in Bloomington, Illinois. Hope you guys are all having a really good day. We're in for some crazy weather if you're in this area. So, Glesna, I hope that you're just north of where the bad weather is going to come through. But I know here where I'm at, down Highway 70 through the St. Louis region, through Missouri, through the St. Louis region, the storms always tend to travel down the highway, down through that main area, if you haven't noticed. And so we're expecting snow mostly in this area, a little bit of freezing rain and sleet just a tiny bit south of us. And of course, that could change between now and then. I know some weather is going to come through today, tonight, but the bulk of it is coming through on Wednesday, from what I understand. Wednesday into Thursday, and then a little bit more potentially after that. So from what I understand, two separate storm systems coming through. Both are going to kind of intersect through this general area. So we're going to get something. What that something will be, who knows? Is it going to be a large, accumulation, just a couple of inches? Are we going to end up having more freezing rain and sleet? I don't know. What I do know, though, is I will be out working in that mess, and I am absolutely not looking forward to it. Good morning, Jay. 4 inches for your area in Illinois. And yeah, Jay, I'm not sure where you are, but you're probably not terribly far from me. So probably be the same for me. Good morning, Dusty. Hope you guys are having a good morning. So much, again, to talk about today. So much, it really, it never ends, but it's all good news, isn't it? It's all good news, because every single day we have the Department of DOGE looking after our every need. So we're going to go through some more, federal funding that's been uncovered by the Department of Government Efficiency. There's so much that if you guys are like me, it's hard to keep track of it all, because there is just so much. The Department of DOGE set to, they're going to go back and reset our deficit. That's what's going to happen. They are uncovering so much money that's been wasted, federal money that's been wasted, your tax money that's been wasted. It's so great to know that you go out and work hard every day, and probably have, your entire life since you were of working age. And for what? For what? We all knew it wasn't coming back to us, right? We all knew it wasn't going to fix potholes. It certainly wasn't going into solving crime. And now we know, don't we? Well, now we know exactly what that money was going into. Good morning, Stacy. And it's really unsettling to think about everything that we've done, we've all been through, the struggles that so many people have had, to pay taxes, and then to know where your tax money is going. And now we hear the Department of Government Efficiency, they're going to save American taxpayers quadrillions. You got that right, quadrillions, not trillions, quadrillions. It's going to be pretty amazing, pretty amazing. So we're going to get into that a little bit. Donald Trump, he's going to be investigating his own assassination attempts. I can't wait to hear that. He is asking for files, asking for documents. He wants to know what exactly is going on. And Allison, did you see Nancy Mace deliver an emotional speech on the House floor last night, accusing ex-fiance and 3 business associates of rape and sex trafficking? No, Allison, you know what? I didn't. I knew that she was going to make that speech, and I saw the video out there. I just did not have time to look at it. I worked until, gosh, from the minute I left the show yesterday until I went to bed last night. So I did not have time, unfortunately, but I will eventually watch that. And I know a little bit about Nancy Mason, her story, and she's one of many, who have gone through similar things. And hopefully she'll get some type of retribution in the court system, or if not, certainly through public opinion. But it's a really tragic situation that took place with Nancy Mace. And some of the other things we're going to talk about today is of course where some of this money has gone. Musk is asking that some of these agencies return the money back to the people. Are you going to see a payout? Are you going to get your kickback? Finally, you've certainly paid kickbacks to an awful lot of people, that's for sure. We're talking about J.B. Pritzker, our lovely Illinois governor, wanting to confiscate guns. And is it legal? Is it not legal? He's going to do it either way, so it probably doesn't matter. Dottie says they have a money washing machine that's extremely durable. Meantime, we can't buy a washing machine that lasts for 5 years. Isn't that the truth, Dottie? Isn't that the truth? Maybe we need to be laundering money like they are. Maybe that would make a big difference with our money machines. FBI, we're going to talk about them releasing those JFK files. The Hamas, Donald Trump really, really laying it out very plainly to Hamas to release the hostages, or else. What might that else be? We're going to get into that. And Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, of course, forming that whistleblower website so that federal employees can potentially squeal on Trump and what some of his associates are doing. So lots to talk about today. We'll get into all of this. So many things to get into, of course. I think it's kind of funny that Schumer created this whistleblowing website. And if you go online and you look at his post and look at the comments underneath it, it is absolutely phenomenal. People will not disappoint you when it comes to the comments, because I think we all know who is doing wrong, right? We all know who's doing wrong. So why is it that he thinks whistleblowers are going to come forward and tattle on Donald Trump and his administration? What is it we're doing wrong? We're uncovering wasteful spending. Why is that such a bad thing? Don't you think that Democrats alike should also be happy that we're uncovering all of this fraudulent spending? And the only thing they want to do is completely ignore it, completely push it to the side and say, oh, well, you said had these wonderful programs where we were feeding people in need. We were, giving clean water. Yes, it's not 100% all bad. We're going to continue the good. It may not be under the same department, but this is what a restructuring of the government looks like. Isn't this what we all wanted all along, was a restructuring of the government? Of course that's only okay if it's a Democrat that's leading the charge, right? It's not okay if it is a Republican or a conservative. Nope. And that's a whole different story. But many of us have always said, I know I have, that let's wipe the slate clean. Let's start all over. Well, that's exactly what we're doing. We're starting all over. We're abolishing, dissolving, dismantling all of these different branches, different departments in the government. And then guess what? It doesn't mean we're not going to keep the good things. We're just changing things. The things that were good will remain. They may be under a different department. They may be handled differently by different people. But trust me, we will still be helping people in need. And not only, though, the difference will be not only are we going to be helping people in need in foreign land, but we're going to be helping people in need right here in our own country. I mean, isn't that what we've always wanted? I guess not Democrats. That's not what they want. It's only what we want. And let's see, Allison says it appears to be backfiring on Schumer. Of course it will backfire on Schumer. I mean, look at all the uncovering that we've done of the misspending, that's been taking place. And then he thinks, oh, we need a whistleblower in the Trump administration. It's insane. Jay says Schumer is an absolute joke. Talk about German national SS tactics. You got that right. And Democrats just want to make sure they never win an election again. And they better not ever win an election again. Karen said, you've been on 10 minutes, but you just now came up on X. Well, that's strange, Karen. I don't know why that would be. I will have to go back to X and see if there's something going on the X platform as to why that might be the case. Because I thought I saw someone earlier commenting from X. Let's see, what time is it? Oh, Dottie was on X. Glesna's on X. I'm not sure, but I see some people were on here X earlier. I don't know why your X just came up. So apologies for that. Sometimes the internet is a very strange thing, and I just don't always have the explanation for everything it does, especially when it comes to technology, because gosh knows I've had my own technical issues here. So it's just crazy. There's just a lot going on. And it's crazy. Some of the federal spending that we have that's taking place, there's again, so much more released every day. You can't keep up with it. Some of the numbers though, that I saw yesterday, some of you have probably already seen these, but think about this. This is insane. Federal spending going to Ivy League colleges. Now, this won't surprise anyone. And it goes to show why these schools were at the heights. They were at the very top of the list for all of these different types of DEI initiatives. And we all know that these were just basically liberal factories, right? Kids go into these Ivy League colleges and they come out a completely different person. So think about this. Columbia University, they were funded with 1.2 billion of your taxpayer dollars. Yale, 776.5 million. Cornell University, $736.3 million. Harvard, $67.6 million. But think about that. Columbia University, one of the most liberal colleges in this country, 1.2 billion. 1.2 billion. And we know exactly what was happening, just a factory for liberalism. People send their children off to college. Good, common sense children enter college and they come out, a totally different place, right? It's insane. We paid for that. We paid for that to happen. And it's absolutely insane. And Al says, you said was funding Hamas. Well, good and bad. Every president we've had, at least for a very long time now, has funded Hamas to some degree. Under Obama and under Joe Biden, they funded Hamas directly. So that money went directly to Hamas. Now, Donald Trump changed the funding source. We still gave money to the Palestinian people, but it didn't go directly to Hamas. So we still sent money there, hoping that it actually got out to the right people. But now, of course, Obama and Joe Biden funded Hamas directly. But that's what our government does. We always fund two sides of every war. And the more they uncover, of course, the more we're going to see that happens. We do that to cause instability. And I know I talk a lot about us causing instability and chaos in other countries, because that's how we move in and take control, is we make them unstable. Particularly, we make their economy unstable. And you do that by making the people unstable, by creating chaos amongst the people. And we've done that very successfully. It's been in our number one tactic in our playbook for a very long time. And when you fund both sides, that's exactly what you get is chaos. And that is our ultimate goal. So we're going to see a lot more of that uncovered a lot more funding of these different groups. We already know we were funding George Soros, all those big pallets of bricks you saw at the various riots that took place across our country. You probably paid for those too, because we know billions of dollars going to George Soros and all of his different companies. And yes, Allison, you better believe it. War generates more money than peace. Sickness generates more money than health. I mean, I think people can get the drift of where our country has been. And I don't see how anyone could possibly think that we're not in a better place, heading towards a better place. But people are still complaining that, oh, we're, X number of days in and Donald Trump hasn't yet lowered the gas prices to $1.20. He hasn't gotten rid of avian flu, and we're still, paying higher prices for groceries. Okay, give the guy some time. We're saving quadrillions of dollars overall. In the end, that's going to help you individually. It will help you individually. Good morning, Karen, if I haven't said that already. And, Elon Musk, by the way, the federal government, they're going through this revamping process, absolutely necessary under the Trump administration. But the Supreme Court, we have so many liberal judges, they don't want to see it. They do not want this to happen. And why? Because they're directly negligent. They have directly been involved with a lot of this funding going to all of these different groups. And they know it. We know it. They've all gotten their little kickbacks down the line, haven't they? And more of that will be uncovered. However, now we see these situations where all of a sudden these federal judges are popping up, state judges popping up, and they're all trying to stop Trump's executive orders. They're saying, "Oh no, we're going to make sure this doesn't happen. No, we're going to halt this, we're going to halt that." And even some of the federal employees that have been let go due to the overhaul, the federal courts are reinstating these people. Now, that shouldn't happen. Donald Trump is not only the commander-in-chief of our Army and our Navy, but he is also over every executive branch within our government. He has more power than the Supreme Court. He has more power than of course, your state courts or a federal judge. And people are going to freak out over the coming days when Trump he's going to start ignoring these judges. And he is going to proceed either way, because we cannot allow the good works that are being done to be halted by these liberal judges. We cannot let that happen. We have to be successful one way or the other. And and then people are going to say, well, that's a dictator. He's a dictator. Only a dictator would ignore the court's decision. That's our checks and balances, and we have to have a president that's going to honor what a federal judge states. No, actually, we don't. Whenever the judicial system is being used against us, Donald Trump should absolutely override it. And before your liberal friends start freaking out, remind them that Joe Biden did the same exact thing. He did the same exact thing. Look what happened whenever Joe Biden wanted to relieve the student loans. Remember that? He wanted to pay off the student loans for millions of people across our country with your taxpayer dollars. A judge stepped in and said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to honor your executive order. We're not going to allow the federal government, the taxpayers, to foot the bill for all of these people who went to college. Well, guess what happened? Joe Biden did it anyway. You got that right, Jay. Biden ignored the Supreme Court. He sure did. He ignored the Supreme Court. He did it anyway. And not only did he do it, but we have him on record telling the world that, hey, the court is not going to stop me. The court's not going to stop me. I am not going to listen what any judge says. They told me, this is on record. This is Joe Biden saying, they told me that I cannot do this, that I cannot pay for your student loan debt, but I'm going to do it anyway. In fact, not only am I going to do it more, I have already paid the student debt for 5 million Americans against this judge's order. So do not listen to people when they start saying Trump is doing something unprecedented. He's doing something because he's a dictator. He shouldn't go above a federal judge or a federal court. You know what? If we have that mentality, we'll never get this stuff straightened out, because all they'll do is they'll throw up a liberal judge against every single executive order. And we're going to end up in a situation where, even though Congress can't stop it because we are the majority, We don't want it to get tied up into the court system. And good morning, Pam, and thank you. Jay says Biden ignored the Supreme Court. Yes, he did. And Jay says these judges are only temporarily stopping. Once the appeals or Supreme Court, it gets overturned. But Jay, they can tie that stuff up for months to years. Months to years. You know, if a judge wants to, they can really throw out a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy. They can keep these things forever ongoing. And they actually did that to Biden too when it came to the student loan forgiveness. They tied it up in courts back and forth with appeals. The fact is we need to get this stuff done, and we need to do it now, right now. Not in 6 months, not in 2 years. It needs to be done today. And I don't care what the Supreme Court says. Don't care. Donald Trump is the president of this country. He has the supreme authority. And no, that does not make him a dictator. It is the fact that we know the judicial system has been used against us for long enough. Long enough. We have to start standing up. And as part of that, we have to start saying, you know what, the Supreme Court with these liberal judges, we can't, force them out of their job, but what we can do is we can carry on with our mission and just ignore what they say. It's really that simple. You just ignore what they say. And we saw Biden do it, so we know what happens. And Jay, yes, they do. Judges absolutely need term limits, as does every single member in our government. They all need term limits. Congress being number one. Good morning, Rob. Good morning, Sherry. So we're going to see what happens, but I do expect Donald Trump to say, you know what? I respect the Supreme Court, but these are my objectives. I'm going to do it one way or the other, just like Joe Biden did. And we have to. We just have to do it. You know, we're to this point in this country where nothing is going to stop us. And anyone who wants to stop us from doing what needs to be done, they need to be prosecuted. And that includes Supreme Court judges. If they want to stand in our way, then guess what? Let's prosecute them, because they have no right to unlawfully stand in the way of Donald Trump's objectives. That's just my take. You guys might feel a completely different way, but we need to get this done. And you know what? Every day, making leaps and bounds. And of course, as we know, a judge stepped in and told Elon Musk that, of course, your Department of Government Efficiency, you guys are officially banned from the Treasury Department. You cannot look through those files. Well, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard yesterday, and I kind of wondered if this is something that Elon Musk would have done. And then I heard a little bit about it yesterday, because think about this. If you are going into a business or a home, whatever your objective might be, and you want to see the contents in a computer system where all the files are kept, what are you going to do? You know that any minute somebody's going to walk in that door and stop you in your tracks. So the first thing you're going to do is try to download as much information as you can. And then if they stop you, you take it with you and sort through it later. Well, that's exactly what Elon Musk has done. When his Department of Government Efficiency originally started in the Treasury Department, even though they were pretty much immediately blocked as soon as they got started, from what I'm reading is they did enter some type of a crawler, if you know what a crawler is, into the system. So therefore, even though they are not physically there, even though they are not physically able to see what's on those computers and in those files, they still were able to enter into some type of coding, and they're still going to get that information. They're still receiving the information from the Treasury Department. Now, I can't prove that's true. I definitely cannot confirm it, but that is what I'm reading. And it makes a lot of sense to me, because if I were Elon Musk's team, that's exactly what I would do. I would go in, I would install my program so that even when they lock me out of the office, I'm still able to see what's in these files. And I wouldn't doubt at all that that's exactly what Elon Musk did. And I think when they start going through the Treasury files with a fine-tooth comb, they're going to see so much stuff. And I can't wait to see everything that's uncovered, because there's so much I want to know. You know, while we're finding out a lot of great information, I want to know how much money went to kickbacks to every member of Congress. We know some of it, but I want to know how much every single member of Congress received. I want to know every single dollar that went into the pockets of every politician in this country. I don't care if you're on a school board. I want to know how much money you received in kickbacks, because I want to know who's being honest with us and who is just playing the game. And I'm going to bet you they're all playing the game for the most part. Robert says, hello, everyone. Good morning, Robert. Republicans hold office, Democrats hold power. Whether elected majority or not, Democrats still always seem to be in charge. Jail is the only thing that will stop this. And Robert, I agree. And I think jail is coming. We don't have any beds right now because we filled them all with illegals, but jail is coming. I do think for a lot of people. I really do feel that as we continue to uncover the fraud that has taken place, these people need to go to prison. We're going to find out about more about insider trading. We're going to see what kickbacks, members of Congress have received. And I personally think, you may not agree with me again, but I personally think that if a member of Congress, I don't care what side of the fence they're on, if they were receiving kickbacks, they need to be in prison. And as a perfect example, when COVID came through, and we know remdesivir killed a lot of people. I think remdesivir, which was allegedly the treatment, and then of course we can talk about the vaccine, two different things here within the COVID that led to more deaths than the virus itself. All of those members in Congress who have stock in these pharmaceutical companies who got kickbacks for voting for different legislation that allowed these drugs to be used, to allow the vaccine to be mandatory for so many people, they belong in prison. Not just losing their job is not good enough. They belong in prison. They need to be prosecuted. And there are a lot of other countries, whenever they have, let's say, a new king or a new parliament, they go through a lot like what we're doing right now through the different branches of their government. And look what happened. It happened in Saudi Arabia when the new king took over for his father. He arrested, it was almost 400 politicians for corruption. They're in prison. That's what needs to happen. And if going forward, if people who are running for Congress, who are in Congress, know that they are going to be prosecuted for insider trading, they're going to be prosecuted for receiving millions of dollars to pass legislature that hurts Americans, they hopefully that will change their plan a little bit, because I am so tired. Who was it that I was just reading an article about? Not Schumer. Was it McConnell? Maybe, no, it was Schumer, where he is worth $82 million. This man has never worked in the private sector. He has always been a politician. He has always worked, within the United States government to some degree. He's always been a public servant. How in the world did this man amass I don't know if it was 81 or $82 million? How did that happen? Now, why can't we go back and audit, let's say from day one, where did all of this man's money come from? Has he been filing taxes, on this money? Is he getting kickbacks for voting a certain way? And of course, I know we all know the answer to that. We all know the answer to that. And I want to see prosecutions. Am I wrong? I want to see prosecutions. And maybe we'll see it, maybe we won't. And more than that, I want to see kickbacks to the American people. Why not? That was your tax money that went into all of these ridiculous things. Are we going to be able to, moving forward, lower the tax rates? I know Donald Trump wants to get rid of income tax. I know he wants to do a lot of different taxations, no tax on tips, which is kind of funny that all Republicans voted for no tax on tips. Almost no Democrats did. Democrats want to tax your tips. Republicans don't. What do you think about that? Of course, we know Donald Trump wants to get rid of some federal tax, no tax on Social Security. There's a lot of things coming our way. However, what about kickbacks to the American people? I know Elon Musk recently stated that he wants to see every single American receive a check in the mail to your kickback. You're part of this ridiculous fraudulent spending that you paid for. And Pam says they are so used to receiving dark money, they don't think they're doing anything wrong. It's so funny you say that, Pam, because that is absolutely true. They don't think they're doing anything wrong. It is crazy how they oppose everything we're doing. They absolutely oppose it. They don't want to acknowledge all of this ridiculous, frivolous spending. So the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, known as the CFPB. Now, first of all, they had 1,700 employees that are currently on leave. They're going to dismantle this department. Good morning, Elizabeth. they're going to dismantle this department. And so Elon Musk, he wants them to cut a nice big check to Americans right now. Now, if you know what the Consumer Protection Agency is they go after banks, financial institutions, they're like a watchdog group. Anyone who is overcharging the American people money, committing fraud, they sue them, they get the money back, and then they are supposed to give it back to the person that was frauded out of the money. Well, that doesn't always happen. And so they have amassed $711 million. It's like $711 million, 568,000, something along that lines. Well, Elon Musk thinks that they should take that money, the Consumer Protection Agency, they should take that money and divide it up and send out a big check to every single American. What do you think about that? That would be over $1 million per American. I don't see that happening, but it would be awfully nice if it did. And thank you, Paula. Hard to believe today is 100 episodes. And so wouldn't that be interesting if we did, if every American got $1 million because of the overspending of the government? And quite honestly, if you think about it, if Elon Musk has saved us quadrillions, that's what they're estimating in the end, it will be quadrillions. What does that look like now? What does that look like for the future? If we're at a deficit right now of trillions of dollars, last I looked, I haven't looked at the debt clock in a while. It was about, what was it, 20? I don't know. You guys have to remind me. Was it 26, 36 trillion in debt that we were? And they're going to completely reverse that to where we are actually back in the green. What do you think about that? No longer in the negatives. We're going to be back in the green. So where is all that money going to go? Are you, right now, if you're, let's say you're spending 73 cents of every dollar towards taxes, what if you're only spending 25 cents per dollar on taxes? That would be more realistic, because if we're saving a quadrillion dollars of our general budget per year, let's say, then where's all that extra money going to go? That's what I would like to know. Where's it going to go? Are you hopefully you're going to be paying a lot less taxes, but also, is it going to go to our infrastructure? Are we going to see new airports? Are we going to see new shopping centers? Or is this money going to be divided up amongst the people? We've got to start thinking, how is this money going to be spent? I know where it's not going to be spent. It's not going to be kickbacks to Congress. That's for sure. They have received their fair share and they don't need any more. But I'm just curious what you guys think. Where will the money go? Are you going to receive a kickback of your own? I think every American should. Even if it's just a small amount, every American should receive some type of funding in place. And I'll tell you what, and I'm going to play this video here in a second about Tucker Carlson talking about Ukrainians, because we know we're definitely going to dive into that Ukrainian money. But Charles says a stipend to the taxpayers. You deserve a stipend, don't you? You deserve money in your pocket. The government needs to write you a very big fat check to pay you back for all the money that was stolen from you. All of these amounts of money that are being uncovered from DOGE, that's your money that the government under Democrats stole from you. They stole it. Taxation is theft. They stole it from you. And I'm not using that word wrong in a wrong way. They stole it from you. Andrew says, why wouldn't be a debt at all if they didn't do all of this BS many, many years ago? Show me the money. That's right. And I hope they do. I hope they do, Andrew. I hope they show you the money, because you all deserve it. We all do. It's ridiculous the amount of money that we pay into taxes. People can't even survive. People can't even survive because of taxes. And here we know what all of this money went to. I already talked about the money going into these Ivy League colleges. Just a reminder, 1.2 billion to Columbia University. FEMA, they spent $60 million on luxury hotels for illegals. $60 million. $17 million to give tax advice to the country of Liberia. Like, why would we do that? It just doesn't make any sense. Such crazy, fraudulent spending. It's insane. And then we have Ukraine. We have Zelensky who says, oh, yeah, the government, they were supposed to send us $177 billion, but no, I only got, what did he say, 100 billion or 75 billion? I can't remember. But there's about $100 billion missing, according to Zelensky. But now we're going to be ready to do an audit on all of that Ukrainian money. And you talk about revealing, what do you think is going to come out when we do this audit on Ukrainian money? So, retired Army Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, wonderful person there, he is going to conduct a large scale audit, and he's going to track all of the funding that the United States government sent to Ukraine. I think we all know where that's going to take us, don't we? We've talked so many times on this show about how we know we send aid over to Ukraine, whether that's cash money, and we have sent them cash money, or whether it's weapons. We know the weapons end up on the black market. We know that cash money ends up in Zelensky's pockets. We know kickbacks are going back to Congress. I want to know which member of Congress gets the kickbacks. I'll bet you Lindsey Graham is on that list. How much you want to bet that? I'd pretty much bet my life on it. And we're going to find out where all this money is going. And I think it never really even occurred to me that the money may be going to the Ukrainian people, that maybe the government of Ukraine not only has Zelensky built up a guy again who used to play the piano with his genitals. That was literally his job at a club, was to play a piano with his genitals, and running around in tutus and high heels and bondage outfits. This guy's worth like 60 something billion dollars right now. Don't tell me that he earned that money. We know he did not earn that money. We know he didn't. And it never occurred to me, though, that the government is giving money to the Ukrainian people. I want you to listen to this little clip of Tucker Carlson and what he has to say about this. And then
this
we're going to
weekend, I had a meeting in a ski resort in the Alps, which is probably the most expensive town in the world. I was not there to ski, for the record. But the whole town is Ukrainian. You know, all the visitors are Ukrainian. And they're rolling into Air Maze and dropping $1 million in an afternoon. All through Europe, you see this. The richest people are the Ukrainians. That money is ours. It belongs to me and you and every other American taxpayer. That's where it's going. Second fact, not guess, fact is the Ukrainian military is selling a huge percentage, up to half of the arms that we send them. Half. And I'm not guessing about this. I know that for a fact, not speculation. And a lot of us winding up with the drug cartels on our border. This is a crime, what's happening. Our intel agencies are fully aware of this. You tell me they're not profiting from this. Of course, you think the CIA is not profiting from this? Yes, they are. Can't prove that, but I believe that. But they don't know this. I know this, but they don't know this. They know this. No one is saying it. Like, no American seems aware of this. We're sending these arms to Ukraine, billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, and it's being stolen and sold to our actual enemies. Like, what the?
Yep, that's right. That is right. And Allison, yes, you said paid Hunter Biden's millions of dollars as a consultant to Ukraine. I can't remember. I read those figures. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, how many millions he was receiving per month. Or was it $600,000 a month, I believe is what that figure was. And Pam says, who in their right mind would approve paying for illegals to stay in hotels, particularly luxury hotels? Well, you know what? You would, Pam. You might not agree to it, but you paid for it. Literally, you paid for it. Charles says the Bidens got their share of that Ukrainian money. I'm confident about that also, Charles. Certainly they did. Of course they did. And, you know, I can't wait. I want to see where every single penny went to. I want to know where every penny went. I want to see all of it. And I can't believe that anyone wouldn't. It really makes me wonder. It boggles my mind. Why don't Democrats want to know? And you know, I think we all have a good idea. Texas Representative Brandon Gill. I don't know if you know this guy, but he wraps it up pretty good. I'm going to show this to you, another quick video clip, because this guy is phenomenal. And I've never even heard of Brandon Gill before until I saw this video clip. And I'm like, this sums up exactly what we're thinking. What is going on with Democrats? Why don't they want to know? Why don't they want to know where their money's going? I guess they don't mind spending their taxpayer money frivolously.
I also find it rich that all of the sudden the other side has some problem with successful businessmen being involved in politics whenever you guys are the party of George Soros, of Bill and Melinda Gates, of Sheryl Sandberg, of Mackenzie Bezos, of Taylor Swift, of so many other billionaires across the country, as well as every woke, weird pervert in Hollywood. I find this incredibly disingenuous. I think the reality is that the Republican Party under President Trump has a very clear mandate from voters, and you guys don't like it because voters rejected everything you stand for and every policy that you've shoved down the American people's throats over the past 4 years, whether it's open borders, a failing economy, raging inflation, this weird woke stuff that you guys have been shoving down our children's throats. And the voters rejected you, and they welcome.
Never heard of Texas Rep Brandon Gill until I saw this video, and I'm thinking, this guy is phenomenally summing up everything that is exactly what's going on, what we're all thinking about Democrats. I don't understand it. I know Democrats. I have friends that are Democrats. I have family that are Democrats. Some of them being very liberal, some, more moderate. But either way, overall, most of them are saying they just don't care about all of this. They just don't care. They don't need to know. They think that, for one, they think it's all lies. I don't know if you've heard people talking about this. I have read so many posts on social media where Democrats say, oh, it's all lies. None of this is true. Anything that Elon Musk says, anything the government says they're uncovering under Trump, it's all lies. That's what they truly do think. They think that Donald Trump is lying to them, that this money was not really misspent. It's like they are brainwashed to the point that they don't even understand that they've been taken advantage of, that they are victims just like we are, victims of the Democrat regime that took their money against their will without them knowing what their money was going to. And they just don't see it. They just don't care. Their TDS is so strong that they can't see through the BS of hating Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and they can't see the truth of what's really going on. And, we can push it in their face as much as we want, but it just isn't going to matter. They're just not going to get it. And I saw a funny video clip earlier. I didn't save it to show today, but it was CNN, a guy on CNN pointing to this big map. And he said, guess what? In a recent poll they did with CNN, 70% of people said Trump is doing exactly what he said he would do. 70% of people. And I think they compared it to 2017, where it was only 46%. And this guy even had to say, it's overwhelmingly the support right now for Donald Trump. 70% of people saying, yes, he is doing exactly what he said he did. And that is his current approval rating, 70%. It is absolutely unbelievable. Lori says, but they think we are brainwashed too. I know, that's what's so funny, is that if you talk to some of these people, that is exactly what they think. They think we are the brainwashed ones, and we are believing and falling into this trap that really all this money was spent so frivolously. And I read even another article that said, X number, I don't believe it, but they said X number of Republicans believe that the government should continue funding all of these different programs. I'm like, come on now. I know that has to be a fake survey. There is no way in a million years. Charles says it's not the Democrats per se, it's the Marxist communist ideology that defines the individuals. Well, that's probably better put that way, Charles. Allison says, doing exactly what we voted him in to do. Donald Trump is doing exactly what we voted him in to do. It is exactly why so many of us went out. We got the early vote. We made sure that Donald Trump had this win, because this is exactly what we needed to see. We needed to see the slate wiped clean, starting all over, dismantling all of these different departments. And then, you know what? Then we're going to start rebuilding. It's going to be a process of tearing it down. We're still in the process of tearing it down and uncovering everything that we pretty much knew was going on, but now will be validated with. And then we're going to start rebuilding. It's not that there won't be a Department of Education. It's just not going to be what it once was. It's not that there won't be a USED. It may not be called USED anymore. It might be called something else. But we are still going to go back, if we're funding people to have grains and food, if we're building wells for people to have clean drinking water, we're still going to do those things. We are still going to help people, but we're not going to be sending $177 billion over to Ukraine. Just not going to happen. At least not money that's going to go into Zelensky's pocket, because that's exactly what's going to happen. And how we're going to get to the bottom of not funding Congress with kickbacks, I don't know. And quite honestly, if they stop getting kickbacks, if they stop becoming multi-millionaires and billionaires, is anyone even going to run for Congress? That'll make a big difference too, because I think right now people know that, yeah, I might be getting my 200,000, whatever the salary they get per year, but I'm going to make millions of dollars from lobbyists and from kickbacks. I personally think, and I know a lot of you would never agree with this, I think we need to get rid of lobbyists. I haven't heard anyone in the Trump administration talk about lobbyists. I think we need to cut them out, do away with lobbyists. We just don't need them. They're paid a lot of money. The money that they have from these different corporations is going, that's how we get kickbacks into Congress, is the lobbyists. We need to get rid of the lobbyists. We have to. They're just PR people, for these different companies. And of course, we know corporations rule the world. And yes, Jay, Democrats not happy at all. And yes, Allison, we gotta go for the lobbyists. I haven't heard anyone talking about that. And yes, Allison, we went out of the dark age and into the golden age. Well, that's exactly where we are and where we're heading, straight into the golden age. But it's not going to be easy to get there. It's just not going to be easy. We have a long, long, long road ahead of us before we start rebuilding, before we get to that point. And there's a lot of things that are going on right now that Trump is focusing on first. One of those things being his own assassination attempts. He has asked to receive the files. He wants to understand what happened during those 2 assassination attempts. Now, yesterday we talked about that story where Peggy says I sound like Ross Perot. I have actually never heard Ross Perot talk. So I don't know, Peggy, if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not too familiar with, I know who Ross Perot is, but I've never heard him talk. But either way, Donald Trump is trying to investigate his 2 assassination attempts. He wants to know exactly what happened. And I think that's probably always been in his mind, probably more to the forefront after the story we were talking about yesterday, where, as we said, there was a whistleblower that came forward from the state of Pennsylvania, believed to be a law enforcement official of some type. I don't know that to be true. And as I said yesterday, anyone can file a criminal complaint. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And in this particular criminal complaint, this particular whistleblower stated that Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro was involved in conspiring with Joe Biden and a lot of other people to assassinate Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Now, it's one of those things, a criminal complaint, again, just like I said yesterday, just like I said a second ago, it can be filed by anyone. I can file a criminal complaint against you, and I don't even know you or know your circumstances. It can happen. So we can't put all of our eggs in that basket because we don't know if that's true. But what we do know is true is that the assassination attempt against Donald Trump, particularly in Butler, Pennsylvania, was really strange. There was a lot of really weird things, about that, and more information continues to be released. And I want to talk about it a little bit yesterday, a little bit more than what I did. And I, for whatever reason, yesterday I could not remember the name of the shooter. It was Thomas Matthew Crooks, and I don't know why yesterday I just could not remember that. Well, as we all know, some of the strange things about Thomas Matthew Crooks, and of course, as Donald Trump pointed out yesterday, why did this guy have 6 cell phones? So we're supposed to believe this is just your average guy who was upset about who knows what. He had his little manifesto. He decided to assassinate Donald Trump at this rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, and completely unimpeded. The guy's walking around, marching around with his weapon. Nobody does a darn thing about it. The sniper, remember, saw him in his gun sight, and still no one does anything about it. And now we're really wondering what exactly happened. We've always been wondering. Now Trump is going to find out. He wants a full investigation. He wants to see the details. He wants to see the files. He, wants to know, I'm sure, who conspired to make this happen. And he's already said that he knows that Joe Biden and Antony Blinken did conspire to assassinate him. He's already made that statement. And that is exactly why he revoked their security clearances. Now, I haven't heard anything more about that. He said it, and then I haven't heard a single thing more about it. No one has commented on it. I'm not even sure how many people heard that he said that. But that happened a few days ago. And then, if you guys can recall, back when we were talking about that assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, some of the things that were coming out at the time, and this is the sticking points to me why this particular case is so strange. For one, Matthew Urich, he drove a Hyundai Sonata. Okay, so at first, remember, we all talked about the white van, thinking he drove this white van with the Arizona license plates. And in the very beginning, once he was shot and finally taken out, they went back a couple blocks down to where his vehicle was. They said he was driving a white van. Remember that? We all saw the white van being loaded up on a tow truck and taken away. And we were all told there are explosives in that white van, which made perfect sense because that white van was owned by what was that guy's name? By Matthew Urich. Matthew Urich is an Arizona resident. He has a huge anti-Trump person, and everyone was taking photos and video that day saying, "Oh, well, that's Matthew Urich. He owns an explosives company. He despises Donald Trump. Was he a conspirator in the assassination attempt?" And then the media was like, fact checkers are like, "Oh no, that's not Matthew Urich. That's false identity, blah, blah, blah." Well, then it's been uncovered since then that yes, Matthew Urich was there. That was his white van. No one wants to talk about the fact that originally police said there were explosives in that white van. Now they've backtracked on the story and they said, well, the explosives were actually in Crook's Hyundai Sonata, not in the white van. And it's just a strange coincidence that Matthew Urich was there and was arrested. And at first they told us he wasn't arrested. Then we found out later, it was reported by their local news that yes, he and another guy, gosh, I got that guy's name down here somewhere. Oh, Perry South. There was another guy named Perry South. They were both arrested that day for causing trouble outside of the rally. So here we have Matthew Crooks, who was the shooter, obviously taken out by police. We have Urich, who is the driver of the white van, who is an explosives expert from Arizona. We know that white van had those Arizona license plates. There were people on the street, investigators who investigated, and they're the ones who released the information about Matthew Urich. The news never did. The government never did. We heard it from individual citizen journalists. And then some of us looked into it a little bit further. And so now we know that Matthew Urich and this other guy, they were arrested there that day. They were there that day. But now all of a sudden it's like, what happened to the white van? Why all of a sudden does the news backtrack and say, well, the explosives weren't found in the white van, they were found in the Hyundai Sonata? I never heard anything about a Hyundai Sonata in the beginning. Did you? Never was that mentioned, in the past. Now, then all of a sudden we know that Matthew Urich was using the same gun range, remember, as the Department of Homeland Security used for their training. He was also in one of the BlackRock commercials, remember that? And then there's also a person, a citizen journalist, if you guys recall, who did some type, I don't remember. It's kind of funny. An FBI agent friend of mine reminded me of this the other day because they think it's awfully suspicious too. And what ended up happening is this guy, you can access by public record certain types of data. And this person did some type of search. He found out all of the phone numbers that were in that area that day. He found out all of the phone numbers that were near Crook's home in the weeks leading up to this assassination attempt. And they found out that there were federal agents that visited Crook's home at least 3 different occasions prior to the assassination attempt. And they did that by narrowing down a phone number that was there at the house. And we talked about all this back when it happened. But, it's like, how dumb do they think we are? Really, how dumb do they think we are? How much you said money went into these assassination attempts? And now when Donald Trump does all of this investigating and he goes back and he takes a look at these 2 different situations, both the other guy's name was Ralph. Remember that? The guy who tried to shoot Donald Trump? A terrible job at I think it was in Bedminster at his golfing, whatever you call it, golf. I almost called it a golf yard. I know that's not the right word, golf course. And he wants to look into both of those cases. And I think he should. And I think that when he does, he's going to cover a lot of corruption, a lot of conspiracy, all of the things we all thought we're going to find out were absolutely true. And I can't wait to find out. Dottie says, Warren Commission 2.0. You got that right. And Allison says, the strangest thing is, will we still know nothing about either one of the attempted assassinations? Oh, was it in Florida, Allison? I didn't think it was. For some reason, I thought it was in New Jersey. But my brain has moved 1,000 different places since then. Ryan says, Dana Carvey did a hilarious Ross Perot impersonation on SNL back in the 90s. I'll have to take a look at that. But yeah, we need to further investigate because we cannot trust the Biden administration to have truly looked in and investigated these 2 assassination attempts. So I can't wait to find out what we see. And you know what? Now we can actually, I think, trust the FBI again. I've always trusted the agents on the ground, never the folks at the top. But I think that that's going to change. We're going to have Kash Patel, who is, going to have the successful nomination, and we're going to find out so much more, excuse me, so much more. And I'm so excited I can't even talk. And so we know that the FBI, I'm sure you heard yesterday, Donald Trump asked for the JFK files to be released. Remember that? And we got nothing. If you can recall, we really got nothing. We learned a little bit, not enough to really make too much of a difference. Well, now the FBI has mysteriously found 2,400 documents that were not released when they were asked to release documents. 2,400 documents. So now, we have another investigative panel who is going to sift through those documents and will eventually release that information to the public. Hopefully, it will not be redacted to the point where we still have no idea what's going on. Allison said the Florida assassin made many trips to Ukraine. Well, he made trips to Ukraine because remember when we talked about that case that Matt Livelsberger, was that his name? Livelsberger? That is the guy who was in the explosion in the Tesla truck in front of the Donald Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Remember that guy? Well, he and Routh they had to be associates of some type. They were both hiring mercenaries to fight in Ukraine. And they'd both been in the same location a couple of different times. And, not that really matters or probably plays into what happens to Livelsberger, but that just goes to show again, just like I said yesterday, how fickle we are. Remember when Matt Livelsberger, everyone was talking about him? Everybody. We totally disregarded the fact that there was a terror attack that took place in New Orleans. And we started talking about Matthew Livelsberger, who, again, was in the vehicle. We found out it was him. He was the person in that Tesla truck explosion in front of the Trump Hotel. But somehow he and Routh, who is the other shooter, not attempt for the other attempted, gosh, I can't talk today, for the other attempted assassination in Florida. And so I wouldn't be surprised if somehow it all intertwines together. Will we ever know? I don't know. I think there's a lot of dots to connect that we've never even considered connecting. A lot of dots to connect. And I hope we find out what happens to Justice Scalia while we're at it. I will blame that one on the Clintons. I'm about 99.9% sure that they were involved in what happened to Justice Scalia. And, I'm not going to get into all those dots today, but there are certainly lots of dots that connect them together, going back to that Cibolo Ranch in which Justice Scalia died. It was that a guy named John Poindexter owned that ranch, and he had a big lawsuit against a big mining company that is directly connected to the Clintons. So I think all of these things come full circle. The story from back then was that John Poindexter had Justice Scalia at the ranch to talk to him about this fight he's having with this, I can't remember what the company was. It was in Shafter, Texas. And I was on a show way back in the day and talked about that pretty well in depth. But if you connect the dots there, trust me, the dots are there. All roads lead back to the Clintons, don't they? That seems to never end. And we'll find out about, we talked earlier about Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer creating that whistleblower line, website. He wants, of course, anyone in the federal government to come out and blow the whistle on the Trump administration. But you know what? There's nothing there to be seen. There's nothing there to be seen. I think I'm losing my voice. So hopefully I can get through the show. I've been up since 3:30 in the morning, coughing. So I don't think I have a cold. I think it's just crazy allergies. That sometimes happens to me ahead of a storm coming through. And we have 2 getting ready to come through this way soon. So that's something I wanted to get to. Let's see here. I know there's a Hamas. I know we're going to talk about Hamas. Joe Fry says, good morning, Patriots. The Democrats tried to kill Trump and got away with it, just like when they killed JFK, and everyone just let them continue to get more corrupt until Trump came along. They have becoming more corrupt all along. And you know what? But those days are over, isn't it, Joe Fry? Those days are over. They are going to all be exposed for who they are. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about this situation with Hamas. Oh, Glessa says, just now, 4 FEMA employees fired in New York for paying for hotels for migrants. Exactly. Thank you, Glesna. It's exactly what we were talking about earlier. $60 million FEMA paid for illegals to stay in luxury hotels. Absolutely unbelievable. I think we all knew FEMA needed to be disbanded. I can't wait for that one to happen. And it doesn't mean people won't receive aid when there's a catastrophe. It will just be funded in a different way, a better way, a more resourceful way. And quite honestly, I know we're going to talk about Hamas in a minute and some threats that Donald Trump has made to Hamas, which is going to be very pivotal this coming weekend when all this takes place. But I'll tell you what, I hope we disband the Red Cross. And you're going to say, why would you say that? You know, the Red Cross, we found out through these different audits, they were handing out maps to illegals. The Red Cross, which we funded, your taxpayer money funded, they were going across the border and they were funding people to hand out maps to illegals so the illegals could more easily come into the United States without being detected. That's the Red Cross. And we need to get rid of the Red Cross. We need to get rid of FEMA. And then we need to create an organization that actually helps the people, that actually gives the money to the people, that gives them the resources that they need. You know, to when we have a natural disaster like what happened, let's say in Lahaina, or what happened in North Carolina, what happened in Georgia, all of these different instances that we can go back and look at, Katrina, instead of them getting $750, maybe we actually need to help these people. Instead of giving all of our taxpayer money to help illegals cross into this country by giving them maps, directions, how to get here without being detected, maybe we need to actually be using this money what it's intended to be used for. And, you know, I will not give 1 cent to the Red Cross, and I haven't for a long time, and or any of these groups, You know, wait till they start tearing apart some of the other ones. All of these groups, they need to get, there's so many, I have so many things on my list. I hope they get to Joe Olstein too, because no one should profit. No one should profit in the name of Jesus. No one should be able to profit. You should not be able to run a mega church and have a jet and have multiple sports cars and live in a multi-million-dollar mansion off of the money of the people who believe, the good Christians who believe in God. It's insane. I can't wait till they work their way through these things, and they will. From what I understand, they are going to be working on trafficking next, and we're going to find out how much money you said paid into trafficking children, and that's going to be pretty interesting when all of that comes out. And Pam says FEMA hasn't been doing anyway. It's so incredibly sad. You know, FEMA needs to go. All these agencies need to go. We just need to start over with a clean slate, institute some agencies that actually do the jobs they were intended to do. Isn't that all we want? Have them do the jobs they were intended to do. Go out to California, help these people whose homes burned down. Go out to North Carolina and help these people whose homes got wiped away in a landslide. And, you know, we need to do what we need to do to help folks. And we're just not doing it right now. So we need to do that. So I want to jump into Hamas really quick. Then we've got some other things to talk about. Oh, I eventually want to make my way to the IRS agents, by the way. Remember those 87,000 IRS agents are still there, but they're going to be doing something different right now. And we're going to talk about deportation. Deportations are still happening. We're going to get to that and why we're not seeing those numbers like we did. You know, that's going to ramp back up, but we've got to do some things first. So in the meantime, Donald Trump, and I'm going to let you hear his statement here for yourself. He is basically telling Hamas that, hey, you need to release the rest of the hostages. And he's giving them an ultimatum. If you don't release these hostages by Saturday at noon, this coming Saturday at noon, all hell's going to break loose. You can listen to this statement right
if
here
all
yourself.
of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock.
Now, I don't expect this to happen. I do not expect this to happen. Hamas has already stated that they said Israel has broken the ceasefire, and so they are going back into battle mode. And we hear Israel is collecting their troops on the border. So there's going to be a lot that goes down in the coming days between Hamas and Israel. And what role do we, the United States, play? We know that Donald Trump wants to annex Gaza. He wants to take that for the United States. What What exactly we'll do with it, I don't know. Maybe build a military base there, maybe make a tourist destination. I seriously have no idea. But I know that he wants to increase our presence in the Middle East. And right now, that's very difficult to do because in order for us to be in the Middle East, when we're not on some of these ridiculous CIA objectives like guarding the poppy fields, for the Taliban, or taking the oil from the Syrians or taking gold from the Libyans, if we want to be there legally, we have to have some land there because none of these countries want us there. Syria, they don't want us there. They didn't under Assad. We were there illegally under Assad. We were watching over the oil illegally in Syria. We've been in Iraq illegally. We've been in Afghanistan illegally. And the only thing we can do, if we have a strip of land there for ourselves, we can legally put a military base there and we can maintain, some type of posture in the Middle East, without as much threat as going into these countries with ill intentions. We know that under the Democrat rule, what did we do? We went to different countries. We pillaged their land. We stole their natural resources. We stole their gold. we took over their governments. We didn't ask. We just did it. Now, the difference with Donald Trump is he's not just going to go in and do it. He's trying to work out these different transactions diplomatically, like with Greenland. He's offered Greenland money to purchase Greenland. Of course, Denmark said no, but at least he tried to do it diplomatically. He's trying to work out a deal with Canada for when Trudeau officially steps down. And I don't see that happening, but you never know. And now we have the situation in Gaza. Trump he's dead serious. He plans on taking that strip of land, one way or the other. And I think he's probably going to use Israel to do that. Now, what's going to happen to all of the people there in Gaza? Where are they going to be, housed? I heard he's in talks again. Egypt originally said no, but I heard there are talks taking place with Egypt, and that would be the easiest solution because obviously Egypt is the border there in the Gaza region, and they could just transport people over to but that's 1.9 million people. We're talking about 1.9 million people. How do you displace 1.9 million people, without some type of crisis taking place, humanitarian crisis? So that's something we'll have to figure out. But already, Hamas has said they're not releasing the hostages. They are not abiding by the ceasefire because Israel broke it. So what's going to happen with Donald Trump when these hostages aren't handed over by Saturday at noon? Is Hamas going to come to their senses? I don't think so, because Donald Trump has already said Hamas cannot exist. They can't exist. And so therefore, what do they have to lose at this point? If they know they're going to be moved from their land, if they know that the United States is going to go after Hamas in such a way, they have absolutely nothing to lose. And I'm very curious what they may end up doing. We're certainly going to see how it unfolds over the coming days. And Allison says, Egypt is moving tanks and soldiers on their border. And there's, Allison, there's a couple of different reasons I'm hearing for that. One is that they are going to try to peacefully move all of these people across the Egyptian border. Even if it's just temporarily until they can find a home, they are going to do their best to clear Gaza within days. I mean, it sounds crazy to think, but within days. And then they are going to completely level the area, and then they're going to rebuild. And what we're going to do with it from there, I don't know. And I don't even know if I really agree with this plan, quite honestly. I just don't know what I think about it. I actually feel a lot of empathy for the people in Gaza. I do. They're humans. They have children. These are mothers and fathers. Not every single person that is in Gaza is part of Hamas. They're, and not only that, but terrorism is subjective. Everybody has their freedom fighters, right? And there are people who think we're terrorists and we're not terrorists. And of course, anyone that harms people like Hamas did to the Israelis on October 7th, obviously that is a terrorist act, and those people need to pay for it. But there's a lot of innocent people there as well. And Joe says, Obama created ISIS and the war in Ukraine, CIA created Al-Qaeda, and Israel created Hamas. The plan was always to exterminate the Palestinian people. Joe, I 100% agree with you on all fronts of everything you just said. The terror we have created, the bloodshed we are responsible for that's on our hands, American hands, it's just enormous. The debt we owe to the world is truly enormous. And it's a shame that our CIA and using, of course, you said, has funded all of these different operations in different countries, the millions of lives that were lost, not to mention our own American troops' lives that were lost to what? To steal gold, to steal oil, to steal minerals. It's insane. And I hope those days are over. And people may not like Donald Trump for wanting to take over Gaza or wanting to take Greenland or Canada. And there's a couple of other, things he's talked about in different parts of the world that he would like to have. But, he's doing this because to remain the superpower that we once were, that we were losing under the Biden administration, we have to have minerals. We have to be able to back our currency with gold. We have to be able to, we've got our own petroleum here. Certainly doesn't have to, hurt to have more. So those are all things that we need to do. We need some presence in the Middle East. I understand that. And I think that Donald Trump is doing it as diplomatically as he can possibly do. He's not raiding other countries. We're not invading Greenland. Even though Europe accuses us of that, and they're preparing for us to invade Greenland, there's been no talks of us invading Greenland. And Joe says the Jews should have never been placed in Israel. What I've got to say about what's happening with Gaza right now and Trump's motives for taking that strip of land is that I know Donald Trump wants to create peace. I know he does. I know he thinks in his heart of all hearts that he is such a wonderful negotiator that he can step into this situation and he can create peace. But the problem is we know the Bible tells us there will never be peace in the Middle East. We know this. So any effort he makes is completely futile. It's not going to happen. There is not going to be peace. We can move these people anywhere we want. And maybe those people will find peace. Maybe Israel will find some peace, but there is never going to be peace in this region of the world. It cannot happen. The ideology is too strong. It is too opposite of Christianity. There will never be peace. And that is just the way that it is. And I don't think there's anything that we can do to change that. Not going to happen. But we do need a presence there. And maybe this is the best option for us creating a presence. So, then we have the situation between Ukraine and Russia, which is, again, starting to heat up a little bit. Donald Trump had a phone call with Putin this week, and we haven't gotten to, any set terms yet. We're improving relations. We shared the same airstrip the other day for the first time in history, our military and the Russian military, which was pretty phenomenal in itself. But the problem is you guys probably remember this was quite some time ago, right when Donald Trump was campaigning. And when we found out he was very likely, of course, going to win, Zelensky reached out to him. We talked about it at the time. And he was trying to bargain with Trump at that time. And he said, hey, I will give you the minerals to Ukraine if you help us out and help us defeat Russia. You can have all of our minerals. Well, we desperately need those minerals. And I was really hoping Trump would say, you know what, we'll get minerals another way. We don't need your minerals or your grain. We'll figure it out, but we're not going to help you, Zelensky. And then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, we stopped aid. Remember, we stopped aid. We stopped weapons going to Ukraine. Well, then that decision was reversed almost immediately. And we started once again sending more weapons to Ukraine. And now there's more talk on the table, kind of out in the open, about how we basically have purchased Ukraine, that we've given them enough money to where we now own Ukraine. How does that change the negotiations with Russia? We know Zelensky is going to be replaced soon. They're trying to work out an election process now. We know he's not going to win. So how is that all going to look for us? We should own Ukraine. We spent $177 billion that we know of. There's probably so much more money that's gone over there. Europe didn't, throw in too much. We've single-handedly supported Ukraine, against Russia. We certainly should own it. However, what is that going to look like for Putin? Because Putin wants to keep the land he has. And originally, Donald Trump's negotiation was that, yes, Putin can keep the land they've already taken, that eastern region. And I think that's Donbass and Luhansk and a couple of other areas over there. And now all of a sudden, I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if that's going to happen. And let's say if we want the minerals, just as an example, in the Donbass region, well, Russia's already there. That's an area they've already liberated, they've already taken over. So now are we going to have to fight Russia, for these areas? I'll be curious to see how this all works out. And I hope that it works out to our benefit in this situation. When it comes to these foreign policies, I get a little nervous because everything is just, it's so fragile. It's so fragile. And I really hope Trump can create peace between Ukraine and Russia. I hope that Russia is allowed to keep the area they've already taken. The rest of Ukraine, maybe that becomes, part of the United States. Maybe we do annex Ukraine as well. We're certainly talking about it. That would be a really good chunk of land for us to harvest for, grain and as well as minerals. So we'll see where that goes. We're going to be finding out. It's going to be unfolding over also the next few days. Trump has his plate full, doesn't he? Thank God he has Elon Musk to rely on for all of these audits while he is over here working on foreign policy, because only he can work on foreign policy. The audits, of course, you can entrust to a different department. And Jay says Muslims can't even get along with other Muslims, but they are united when it comes to Christianity. Also true, Jay. Also true. When it comes to religious ideology, the wars will go on forever. It will go on forever. Even like here in the United States, it might not be religious ideology, but it's political. We have liberals, we have conservatives. We are more divided than we have ever been. I feel like today we're more divided than we've ever been divided. We are, some of us conservatives, we are thrilled. We're 100% on board with all of these government audits, with dismantling all of these different government branches. And then we have some people on the liberal side who think we are absolutely nuts. They think Donald Trump's a dictator, that everything he's doing is wrong. He's destroying the country. He's destroying the Constitution. And I really worry about his safety, Elon Musk's safety, our own safety, because I'll tell you what, we're on the chopping block too when it comes to them. What are they going to do? And let's just say if they successfully assassinate Donald Trump, where will that leave us all? I hope to God, of course, that doesn't happen. As we said yesterday, he has that fake Air Force One, flying around to distract the people who would like to attack him, of course, which I thought was pretty interesting. And I don't know where we would go from there. We can't allow Democrats to take over again. We've got a job to do. That's what this is. It's a job. We have a job to do. And our job is to continue to break these departments down, get to the bottom of everything, uncover all the fraud, wasteful spending, and then rebuild them back up again to be better, to be more efficient, to where when our Congress votes on a spending bill, and let's say we have, $6 billion going into the spending bill, that money is actually going where it's supposed to go, that none of it ends up in the pockets of Congress, that none of it ends up overseas. That money needs to stay here in our own communities. It needs to help the American people. And just like in that clip I played for Tucker Carlson, talking about the Ukrainians being so incredibly wealthy. And, that could be us. Look at the country of Monaco and how wealthy the people are in Monaco. That could be us, the United States. The only reason why it's not us right now is because our government was taking our money fraudulently and spending it on all these ridiculous things and making themselves wealthy. They don't care about us. We're all just collateral damage. So we have to fight really hard to make sure that we finally get to where we need to be. Just think, if we didn't have governments in control for all those, our Democrats in control for all of those years, where would we be right now? We would certainly all be living quite a bit better, a lot less taxes going out, a lot better retirements. There's a lot of different things that can change. And as Elon Musk stated, the government owes us all a big fat check for all the money they literally stole from us. They stole it from us. And I hope Democrats wake up and see that the government stole this money from us. Now, I'll bet you anything, if they start getting a check in the mail, they're going to be pretty darn happy with Donald Trump. Pretty darn happy. So a couple other things I want to talk about just to go through really quickly is that, speaking of Elon Musk, he wants to buy AI. He wants to buy AI. I know that sounds crazy that you can buy AI, but you can. Open AI founder Sam Altman said, nope, we're not selling. And this is so interesting, is that Elon Musk wants to buy OpenAI for $94 billion he offered out of his own money. He's going to pay $94 billion to buy OpenAI, and he was going to make it a nonprofit. His vision is that with all of the AI technology that we have now and that it will eventually will have in the future, he wants no one to be able to profit from it. No one. And however, his bid was turned down because, of course, somebody will be profiting. Oh, $97.4 billion is what he offered to Sam Altman, but turned down. We'll see if he makes another offer. But, wouldn't that be fantastic if we can have AI technology and no one profit from it? Because I think we all know as long as someone is profiting from AI, someone is going to find a way to use it against us. It's so sad to have to think that way, but we have learned, haven't we learned? History repeats itself. We have learned that given the opportunity, someone will absolutely take advantage of us and use a program against us. It's happened so many times, and it will happen with AI if we don't find a way to stop that from happening. I said I would be talking about these IRS agents, as you know. Remember when the 87,000 IRS agents were hired, and they were all trained in the use of weapons? They were all trained in, like, I wouldn't say hand-to-hand combat, but they were all trained in different types of techniques to restrain you, the taxpayer. Well, Donald Trump has said, hey, you know what? We hired you. We're going to keep you. But guess what? Instead of going after the American people over taxes, unpaid taxes, instead of knocking on their doors, trying to strong arm them out of their tax money, we're going to turn this around, and you're going to be using your weapon and your training to arrest illegals. So all of those 87,000 IRS agents are being deputized, and those folks are going to be placed on these different task forces, and they are going to go out and they're going to start making arrests for deportation. And we haven't talked a lot about deportations in the past few days because deportations have mostly stopped. And not because we've gotten everyone we needed to get. We haven't gotten all the criminals out of this country, but we ran out of beds. We don't have anywhere to house. And in fact, we had to release a couple hundred, maybe a few hundred of the people we had already picked up. They chose the ones who are the least violent, the least amount of criminal past, and had to release those people back into the streets because we don't have anywhere to house them. So therefore, we are working on accumulating more beds. We're doing our best to get Guantanamo opened. They've, I think, 30,000 beds in Guantanamo. They're talking about reopening Alcatraz, which we've talked in the past. But until we secure more federal beds, we have nowhere to house people. And, that's not really unexpected. I know that a while back, a friend of mine who works for the U.S. Marshal Service had contacted me, and he said, we are in St. Louis. This was under Donald Trump, so this has been quite some time ago. He said, we are in St. Louis at the bequest of Donald Trump. We are picking up violent offenders, child predators, and so on off the streets of St. Louis. The most violent offenders in St. Louis. We're picking them up off the streets because the city of St. Louis, they're not doing anything, of course, to prosecute violent offenders. So the federal government stepped in under Donald Trump. But he said the problem is that we didn't have any beds in this area. It was to the point where they were making plenty of arrests, but they were having to place these people who live in or from the St. Louis area, down in Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana. They were trying to find beds all over the country. There just were not any beds. We are seriously to the point where we have so many criminals in this country. We don't have anywhere to put them. We don't have enough beds to house all the criminals in this country. So we're going to have to, I don't want to say we need to open more prisons or build more prisons. I don't think that's the answer necessarily, but we have to find a place to house all of these people. So as we find beds for these people who will eventually be deported, then we're going to have to come up with some solutions. And what those solutions will be, I do not yet know. Jay says some will be going to El Salvador. Yes. Guatemala is going to take some of their people back. I think and Jay, I think it was El Salvador that said that they will even take illegals that don't even belong to them. They don't even have to be from El Salvador, and they will take them. Now, what kind of deal we had to make for them to take them, I do not know. I'm sure we made some sort of deal for that to happen. I haven't heard the details of that, but it's a pretty interesting concept. Joe says they can sleep on the floor like we did when we were kids. Yes, except for the ACLU will be gearing up to make sure that does not happen. And as a matter of fact, the ACLU, man, they've been going through this massive hiring. They're hiring, from what I understand, thousands of people across the United States. And these people are going to be involved in protests. They're probably violent protests. They're going to be involved in lawsuits because the ACLU, they're getting ready to unleash some serious craziness on us over all of these Trump policies. Just wait and see. They're gearing up. They're hiring people again. I've heard they're hiring thousands of people. You can go out right now and see the job ads for yourself. You can go out to a job board and look it up, and you'll see that they're looking for activists. They're looking for people to go door to door. They're looking for people to work directly for the ACLU that have legal experience to go after these lawsuits. And don't think it won't happen. Don't think it won't happen. If you ever have some extra time on your hand, look up the Flores settlement, and you'll find out how all this came about when the ACLU sued. I think it was the Clinton administration back then, because they didn't want kids to be held in these detention centers that used to be prisons. And that led to, the Obama administration, the Trump administration, having to separate families because we didn't have enough family beds. They couldn't keep children in these facilities that used to be prisons. So the ACLU can be pretty powerful. So we'll have to keep out of that. So many things to talk about, but I'm about out of time. One of the things I wanted to add in, because I'm pretty darn excited about this. I don't know about you guys. Donald Trump has, guess what? He's done away with paper straws. And it's kind of funny, but his exact statement was, I've used them and I don't like them. They don't work. And that is so true. I despise paper straws. And if you guys recall, he also recently said that we're bringing back incandescent lights. I can't wait. I don't know about you guys, but I have been buying incandescent lights on the black market for the past couple years. They're really hard to find. Once in a while, I will go to, let's say, a Dollar General, and they'll have some old stock laying around. And when they do, I buy every single incandescent bulb I can find. I buy them online. I cannot stand LED lighting. I absolutely hate it. So those are two good things. A little bit silly, but I am very happy to have plastic straws back, because I also cannot stand those stupid paper straws. They drive me insane. So that's about it. I don't think I have anything else to go over. If I do, I don't remember. Some of the things that, one thing I did want to add is Pritzker. I didn't say I was going to talk about this, is Illinois Governor Pritzker. And that guy's a lunatic, isn't he? He is an absolute lunatic. He is getting ready to sign a bill, and he is going to start confiscating the guns of Illinoisans who have been part of a domestic order of protection. So basically, if you receive a order of protection, somebody has filed an order of protection against you and you have weapons, they're going to be confiscated by the state of Illinois. Now, I think this is absolutely ridiculous, because we know, I hate to think about it, but we do know that people can file an order of protection against you for absolutely no reason. They can just make something up. Now, of course, a judge is supposed to decide on this, and they're supposed to look at both sides and decide if an order of protection is necessary, but they don't always make the best decisions. They don't always have all the information. And I think it's absolutely unconstitutional that Governor Pritzker could even think about confiscating guns from people that have an order of protection against them. No, I also understand that the most dangerous situation for law enforcement officers is a domestic situation. They come out, they respond to a call, domestic call. We've had more officers shot during these domestic calls than probably any other type of call. I understand the problem. However, not every single person that has had an order of protection against them is necessarily guilty. I think that we need to have a better process for that. I understand the motive behind it, the basis behind it, because it can be a dangerous situation. There are people out there who are accused of domestic violence who absolutely should not have a weapon, but we need to find another way to take away their weapons, another way, not just a situation where we have an order that says, okay, Joe, you have this order of protection against you. We're going to come to your home. We're going to confiscate your weapons. And if you don't give them to us willingly, guess what? You're going to go to prison. I don't agree with that at all. And Jay says, Pritzker has multiple unconstitutional gun laws, FOID cards, weapon bans. I agree completely. It is absolutely ridiculous. Oh, Dottie, what are you saying? 1000bulbs.com. Never heard of that, but I'm going to take a look at that. Jay says plastic straws, bad, but the millions of drinks in plastic bottles. Okay. I know there's never any sense in Democrat law, is there? Never any sense. Like, remember when Starbucks, you could go to Starbucks and they made you take a paper straw, but they had exactly that, plastic cups and plastic lids. Do you remember that? Absolutely no common sense whatsoever. All right. Well, I am running over my time. So that's it for me today. Well, I will not be here tomorrow. For those of you who missed my earlier announcement, I'm going to reach out to Colonel Joe Adams and see what day we can arrange for him to be on the show. Like I said earlier, unfortunately, duty calls and I have no choice. There are some work that needs to be done tomorrow morning, security work that I just have to do myself. Sometimes that happens. But I do hope you guys all have a fantastic day. I will look forward to talking to you on Thursday. Hopefully not in 3 feet of snow, but we'll see. Just make sure you guys stay warm, stay off the roads, and I will look forward to talking to you on Thursday. Have a good day, everybody. I'm Tabitha with Tabs on Tap.